My name is Nabil Belfki. This is the final project in the course of Artificial Intelligence at New Jersey Institute of Technology, supervised by Professor Arashdeep Kaur, and the project is on the game of Clue. So without further ado, let me show what my project is all about. Before I do that, I just want to show the design work that was done for this project. I took a lot of time in designing the UI, and I went above and beyond in making a really cool UI for this game. Here's the cards. Some of these resources were found online. Some were created using AI, like these were generated with AI. This is the board game itself. Some of these features haven't been implemented yet. One of them is the emojis here, another is the chat and the timer for each player. But other things like the detective notes here, the board itself, will be seen in the game in a couple minutes. This was the design for the lobby, the design for the dice roll, the suggestion design. All of these things will be shown. These four didn't make it into the game yet. They could be future improvements, like show the cards at the end that were included in the murder. The players' cards, too, is another idea I thought of. And show some statistics at the end of each game, like who had the most moves or who had the most suggestions, etc. So without further ado, and with that out of the way, let's see the game of Clue that I developed. So as you can see here, it's like any other lobby system. This web application was built using Python, Django, HTML, CSS, and jQuery, which is a library in JavaScript. And it's also on an EC2 instance, and it's hosted on clue.nabilbelfki.com. At the time of this video, something is wrong with HTTPS and it's not working, but by the time I fix it, you guys should be able to access it through this domain. With that out of the way, let's start this game. So how do we do that? We can either create a game or we can join based off of a code. What I do is I'll create a game here, and my game code, funny enough, is an actual word. It's the word rule. So I'll come over here to my other browser. Normally it doesn't generate one that's an actual word, so that's pretty funny. And I'll put the code in here and I can join the game. So now we can see here there's two players in the game, the one on the previous tab and the one in this tab right here. This is player 2. The player over here is player 1. You can see you can edit your name too, so let's do that. So I'll put my name here. Now if I go to the other tab, I can see my name has been reflected. And the way that this is done is I'm using a library in Python called Daphne, which serves WebSocket connections. So each client connects to this WebSocket, which is the server, and the server broadcasts messages to each client. So whenever someone changes a name or rolls the dice or makes a move, it sends that to Daphne, and then Daphne then broadcasts that to every single client. So let's say there was someone at NGIT in Newark who logged on to the website, and I was here in Bridgewater, New Jersey. It would send it to Daphne, which is a server hosted on AWS, and then it would broadcast that message to everyone that's connected to this game. That's kind of how it works, so that we can see all the players making their moves. So let me change the name of player 2, and I will make that Professor Rashdeep. And let's get started. As we can see here, player 2 can't start the game. The only one that can start the game is player 1, who is the admin. So I will click start. And when the game starts, we choose the player that we want to use in Clue. As we can see here, the timer is timing down. I need to be quick because it'll randomly choose one for me, and I don't want that. If we look at the other player, they can't choose. It's not their turn yet. So I will choose Mr. Green because green is my favorite color. And now if I come over to this other player, I can see that Nabil chose Mr. Green. I will have Professor Rashdeep choose Miss White. And let me just mute the volume because I added some music on this tab. And if we come back here, we can see the game board as well. So a couple things to note before we start the actual game itself. As we can see here on the right side, we can see the detective notes. These will help each player try and figure out who the murderer was with what weapon in what room. It'll keep track of it automatically for you as the game progresses. We can see that there are some that are already checked. The reason why is because at the beginning of the game, all of the cards are dealt between each player, and 3 are reserved for the murder. So we can see here, Miss White and Professor Plum have already been checked off the list because we have those cards in our hand, along with the weapons and the rooms. If we go to the other player, we can see the same thing here, where Colonel Mustard, Mr. Green, and Miss Scarlet are checked out. So that leaves us, I think, with Miss Peacock. Yep, Miss Peacock is the one that did the murder. And we only know that because we can see both players' cards. Normally, you wouldn't be able to see the other players' cards because they would be in some other room or in some other place in the world. And that's the detective notes. These are your cards down here. It shows you who's playing at the current moment. So right now it's Nabil's turn. There are 3 more buttons that can be pressed here. One is suggestion. Right now it's highlighted out. It can't be pressed because the player isn't in a room. This will be enabled while the player's in a room, and we'll see that as the game progresses. Secret passage, which we'll see as well, and roll dice, which can be clicked right now because it is my turn, so I will click it. The dice start rolling. If we go to the other player, same thing here. And unfortunately, I got the lowest roll that can be rolled. So I can only move 2 spots, but let's move those 2 spots. And I'm up here, so let me move. And if we look here, we can see that the player moved 1 time, and I'll move again. And now it is Professor Rashdeep's turn. So if we come over here, let's have her roll the dice. And let's see what she gets. And she got a 5. So she can move 5 times. So let's come back here and let's move 5 times. Alright, now it is my turn. So if I come back here, I can see that Professor Arashdeep moved 5 times. Now it's my turn to roll the dice. Hopefully I get a large number, not like 2 before. 7's pretty good, and I think I can make do with that. Or 6, excuse me. That won't be enough to get into the ballroom, though. So, will it? Actually, it will. Perfect. So, I'm in the ballroom now. I have one of 2 choices. I can either make a suggestion, or I can end my turn. I don't want to end my turn, because I want to make a suggestion to help me figure out what the murder was. So let me click on that. And when I click on it, I see the suggestion pop up. Along with that, I can see my detective notes. So I don't want to suggest Professor Plum because I have Professor Plum, and it tells me it here as well. So I want to suggest one of these players that I don't have. Because I know that Miss Peacock is the one that did the murder, I'll choose her. And I can either choose between the candlestick, revolver, or rope. I'll go with the candlestick. And I can't choose any other room other than the room that the suggestion was made in, which is the ballroom. If I want to go back to the suspect, let's say, I can click here and I can change it if I wanted to. Or the weapon, but I don't want to do that. Click choose, and now I need to confirm my suggestion, so I'll do that. And then here it says Nabil suggested the candlestick in the ballroom with Miss Peacock because Professor Arashdeep didn't have any of those 3 cards, it moves on to the next player. So we can see here, she doesn't have Miss Peacock, she doesn't have the candlestick, and she doesn't have the ballroom. So she couldn't show a card. So now, let's see her play. She got a 10. So let's make her go to the kitchen so that she can make a suggestion as well. And now she's in the kitchen. What she can actually do is use the secret passageway. So I think it's great to explain that now because you can only use the secret passageway if you're in one of the 4 rooms in the corner of the board game. So there's the study, the lounge, the kitchen, and the conservatory. When you use the secret passage, it takes you from the room that you're in diagonal of where you are. So since Professor Arashdeep is in the kitchen, it would take her to the study. And we can actually see that right now. And I clicked secret passage, so it brought her over there to the study. And I can take her back to the kitchen. And now she's in the kitchen where I want her to be because she doesn't have the kitchen card. So let's click suggestion. This time, hopefully, we can see the card showing ability. So what I'll do here is I'm going to click Professor Plum since I know that I have the card Professor Plum. I'll click knife, kitchen, sounds like a murder, and I will see here you can't choose anything else. I'll click choose and confirm. So now it displays what Professor Arashdeep suggested, and if I go over to my tab I can see something else. I can see the show button. So now that I have one of the cards in the suggestion, I can choose which I would like to show. And I'll just choose Professor Plum. I'll click show. And I get a nice little pop-up saying that I showed her Professor Plum. And then when I go to her tab, I can see Nabil showed you Professor Plum. And if I click close and if I click on the detective notes, I can actually see automatically Professor Plum gets crossed off here. So now let me win the game. So let me roll the dice. And let me hopefully at least get 3. Perfect. So now I can go to the center of the board. So now, as you can see, I'm in the center of the board. Now I can make an assumption. I need to be careful though when I make an assumption, because if I get it wrong, then I lose the game. But because I know everything, I'm going to kind of cheat right now and see what the weapon is. So I know it's not the wrench, lead pipe, or knife. And if I come over here, I know it's not the revolver or the rope. So if it's not, so it's the candlestick. Process of deduction. It has to be the candlestick. So I can get that out of the way. Now here, all we have is hall, lounge, dining room, conservatory, and billiard room. If I cheat and... So it has to be the billiard room here. You see this? Both players don't have the billiard room. So then I'll come over here, I'll choose billiard room, and I can make my assumption. So if I get this wrong, I lose. But as we've seen here, I know what the murder is, process of deduction. I click confirm. It shows what I suggested, and give it a sec. Boom. There we go. I won the game. And if I come over here to the other player, I'll see the same exact thing. So that's the game so far. I worked really hard on it. I did a lot of design work on it. I think it's pretty fun. I'm going to play it with my family over winter break. I had an awesome time this semester. It was an amazing class. There are definitely a lot of improvements that can be done to make this game a lot more fun. And hopefully in the future I can try and code that out, because I think it would be really awesome. So thank you so much again, and I'm looking to see what the other students did.